So on Saturday, Bradford City's 22-23 campaign, it did unfortunately come to a close in the League 2 playoff semi-finals against Carlisle. We will definitely be playing League 2 football next season, and in today's video, I'm going to be bringing you guys my 2023 Bradford City return list. We're going to be going through, I think there's about 10 players, something like that, who are out of a current contract with the football club in the summer. We're going to be going through every single one of them individually, and I'll be giving you guys my opinion on whether I personally think they should be retained or released. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 100 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 7,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Drop a comment in as well down in the comment section down below. Like what we did last year, I'm going to be putting the player's name in the comments individually and then putting return or release. Reply to that with your opinion as well. I think a large portion of these players were signed under Derek Adams, so a lot of them haven't had the greatest spell with the football club. Some players were signed under Mike Hughes as well and were given short-term contracts. So we've got a lot to discuss in today's video. Make sure to drop a like on there for me. Subscribe if you're new as well. And let's get into it. Now, before we get into the permanent players who are currently contracted to Bradford City, we do currently have 6 loan players with the football club. Obviously, all of their loan deals will be coming to an end. I think they actually come to an end at the end of May. We're going to go through all of them, speak about whether I think we should try and buy them back on a permanent basis, maybe on a free transfer, maybe a loan deal next season, or whether I think we just should completely forget about them and release them entirely. So starting out then with Romney Critchlow, it has already been confirmed that he will be released by Huddersfield Town at the end of his contract. It obviously was set to expire this summer. They had the option to extend by a further year. For whatever reason, they've not decided to do that, and Critchlow will be a free agent in the summer. Now, we should be doing whatever we can really to retain Romney Critchlow. I think the fact we're in League 2 is a big problem for us in terms of trying to get him back next season. I think he's certainly going to get offers from League 1 clubs, and if we can get him, obviously that would be a brilliant statement signing, but I just think it's very unlikely. In my opinion though, we should be trying to retain Romney Critchlow. Next up then is Tolaji Bola. He's contracted with Rotherham United until 2024, so the end of next season. I think he's played 4 times this season for us on loan from Rotherham when Matty Folds went out on loan, and he's just been a shocking signing. Can't even take a throw-in. Release him, forget about him. One of a fair few absolutely terrible loan signings this season. Next up then is Scott Banks, contracted to Crystal Palace until 2023, so he's also the same as Critchlow, out of a deal this summer. Now, Palace haven't confirmed whether he will be getting a new deal or not as of right now. In my opinion, we should be doing, again, same with Critchlow, everything we can to keep hold of Scott Banks. He's been brilliant this season. Even when he's had his injury problems, he's still come out with, I think, our second most highest goal contributions this season behind Andy Cook. He's been an absolute pleasure to watch, and if we don't see him again in a Bradford City shirt, we've got to thank him for his service, because he's had an unbelievable season really. I think this is his first real season in men's football, and he's done a brilliant job, to be fair. And like I say, we should do everything we can to try and retain him, but I think again he's another one who will get offers from League 1 clubs. I think Charlton Athletic is probably a realistic move for him this summer transfer window, and it'll be a big loss for us next season, and I will be interested to see how we do go on and try to replace him. But like what I say, we should be doing everything we can to retain Scott Banks. Next up then is Dion Pereira. Now, I'm not actually too sure when his contract with Luton Town does expire. Transfermarkt don't know, and Luton didn't actually officially announce when he signed his new contract how long that would run for. He's obviously on loan with the football club for his second spell this season, and it's just been a massive contrast to last year. Last year was brilliant. This year, hardly played, and when he has, he's not looked interested. He's been really, really poor, and I think he's another one that we should just release, forget about, because it's just not been the same this time round. Don't get me wrong, I was absolutely buzzing when he signed in the summer. It was one of the greatest feelings I felt this season in terms of how I felt after we signed a player, but it's just not been the same Dion Pereira this season. I don't know what's gone on behind the scenes, because clearly something has. The fact that he didn't even come on against Carlisle just didn't make any sense to me. Even though Scott Banks was absolutely knackered, Mike Hughes thinks it would be a better decision to bring on a centre-back rather than Dion Pereira. So something's clearly gone on there with Pereira, and in my opinion, we just need to release him and completely forget about him. Next up then is Thierry Nevers, brought in to replace Tyreek Wright in the January transfer window, out of a contract with West Ham at the end of next season, and he's just been a massive flop, hasn't he? Constantly injured. Whenever he's been fit, he's been really, really poor. His quality on the ball is shocking, and yeah, we've just got to release him, forget about him, because he's been absolutely shocking. I mean, he couldn't even get into Newport County's team, so who on earth at the football club thought he would be good enough to then come into Bradford City and replace Tyreek Wright? He was so good for us in the first half of the season before he obviously moved on permanently to Plymouth Argyle, which didn't really make any sense to me, and yeah, one we certainly got to release and completely forget about. And the final loan player is Dara Costello. Was hyped up as the next big thing and was one of the worst worst Bradford City players I've ever seen wear the shirt. Up there with Austin Samuels for me, absolutely shocking. Again, similar to Dion Pereira, I'm not too sure when his contract with Burnley does expire. Clearly not going to be anywhere near good enough to be playing for Vincent Kompany's side next season in the Premier League. If he gets another AFL club next season, then I'll be absolutely outstanding. That man should be playing at National League North or South level, in my opinion, because he's really, really poor. I think he would have struggled to get in BPA side. His first touch is shocking. He thinks he's got all the time in the world. He can't shoot. He's weak on the ball. Don't get me wrong. He knows how to make the right runs, and I'll give him credit for that. But when he's actually got the ball at his feet, he just looks like a deer in the headlights. Really, really poor, shocking, and nowhere near good enough to play for Bradford City. And another player we should be releasing at all costs and never looking to get back to this football club, but certainly in the near future, because he's been shocking. So to round up with the loan players, I would forget about Talaji Bola, Dion Pereira, Thierry Nevers, and Dara Costello. And then Scott Banks and Romney Critchlow, I would be doing all that we can to try and get them in on a permanent basis, with them both being out of contract with their current clubs this summer, and Critchlow already being released. Now let's get into the permanent players. So I know we've got quite a few youngsters who sign pro contracts at the start of the season, and the way that I've done this is if their player profile is on the Bradford City website, I've included them as a first team player. Players like Dylan Yumby not on there. So you've got Kian Scales, Charlie Wood, Heath Richardson, who are obviously on the website, and they have featured somewhat first team football. Obviously Kian Scales and Charlie Wood more in pre-season. Heath Richardson's travelled with the squad pretty much all season, so they all feature. But Dylan Yumby and players like that, Bobby Poynton, don't feature on today's video, and I'm not really too sure specifically when them contracts do expire. Starting out then with Colin Doyle, I think in my opinion he probably will retire and become a goalkeeper coach full-time, which will mean we need to sign a second choice goalkeeper. I think we need a bit more competition for Harry Lewis, because we've seen in the last couple of months a few mistakes start to creep into his game. You know, he's given a couple penalties away in that second leg playoff semi-final against Carlisle. He had an absolute stinker, was at fault for both the first and the third goals. Really, really poor from him. Obviously, I know other players were involved, but he should be doing a lot better with them too, in my opinion. The second goal, I mean, that's just a great finish. I'm not going to give him any stick for that, but his distribution was poor as well, and I think we need someone just to give him that little bit of a kick up the backside, because don't get me wrong, he's been brilliant this season as Lewis, but I think when you've got someone like Colin Doyle as your competition, who's more coach and only really on the bench because, well, you probably should have a goalkeeper on the bench. Heath Richardson's never going to be good enough in his first season anyway as a pro to really be that second choice. So I think we do need to get a second choice keeper in and obviously not make Colin Doyle retire, but I think he probably will retire and become a full-time goalkeeper coach with Bradford City. Next up then is Heath Richardson. Obviously I've been speaking about him now. I would retain him as a third choice goalkeeper. I think clearly he's obviously one more for the future rather than one for now. And I think a one-year deal is kind of the given really for players who've just come out of their youth contracts and then want to make it pro. You know, it always seems to be a one-year contract, and then after that they review it and potentially give them longer deals. Now I think you always need three goalkeepers in my opinion. You have a number one, then you have someone who's happy to be a backup, and then you have a youngster coming through who will eventually one day maybe become that number two, and then after that potentially advances on to be a number one, because goalkeeper careers don't really start the same age as outfield players. You know, you don't really become a first choice keeper until you're in your early 20s rather than your late teens, like what a lot of outfield players do. But for me personally, I think Heath Richardson should be retained as a third choice goalkeeper. Next up then is Oscar Threlkel, brought in by Derek Adams, was shocking last season. This season was sent out on loan to Oldham for the first half of the season. Their fans didn't rate him highly at all. He came back to the club with an injury and has since then not seen a single minute of football at Valley Parade. Well, certainly from a playing point of view anyway, and just one that simply did not work out. He needs to be released, and it's probably for the sake of his own good really. I know that's not the right phrase, but you get what I'm trying to say. For his own sake really, he needs to move on, go back out and try and get some first team football somewhere. I don't know what level that'll be. I can't see him getting an AFL club, because when he left Salford and his first pre-season with Bradford City, he looked like a very, very good player. And I don't think, to be fair, this pre-season he did too bad, but certainly nowhere near the level of Brad Halliday, and I don't even think he matches Luke Hendry, to be honest with you. And when you've got Finkers and Dawson coming back, why on earth would you need a fourth choice right back? I'm sure he's not exactly on cheap wages either. I don't think he'll be on expensive. I think he'll just be on average League 2 wages, and I don't think he's justifying that whatsoever. So in my opinion, Oscar Threlkel should be released at the end of his current contract. Next up then is Liam Rideout. Again, another man signed by Derek Adams last season. Was steady, to be fair, last season. I certainly think he was, in my opinion, top 5 left backs last season. Had a couple injury problems, and in this season had a major injury problem at the start of the season. Was out for, well, I'd say a good 5 months, something like that. You know, I think it was a groin and then a calf, and with his age, and I just don't rate Rideout at all. I think he's far too slow defensively, really, really poor, gets skinned numerous times. The amount of times this season where we've conceded from crosses coming into the box from that side, I don't rate Rideout whatsoever, and I've seen some people saying he deserves a new contract because Matty Foulds might want to go back to Harrogate. I think next season you bring in a new first choice left back, you have Matty Foulds as your backup, providing a bit of competition, but I don't see a world in where Liam Rideout is anywhere near the Bradford City starting 11 next season. I don't personally rate him. In my opinion, he should be released. I don't think he's anywhere near good enough to play for this football club, and was, in my opinion, pretty much a large part of why we conceded that first goal on Saturday against Carlisle, because he's standing his man up and then he's allowing the fullback to come inside, and then he's far too slow to keep up with him. They play a couple of shots, and yes, couple of passes, sorry. Yes, Lewis should have done better with it, and I'm not basing this off of just that individual moment, because there's been so many times this season where I think he has been really, really poor, and he should be doing a lot better. Offensively, his crosses can be good, but they're also very inconsistent at times. In my opinion, nowhere near good enough to be playing for Bradford City, and I think he should be released at the end of his current contract. Next up then is Jan Songo'o. Again, another man signed by Derek Adams at the start of last season, was brought in as a defensive midfielder and had an injury problem at the start of pre-season last year, and then when he came in was really good in the centre of midfield. Then we sold club captain Niall Canavan on deadline day, so the second half of last season he was playing centre-back with Paudie O'Connor, and I thought for the large part did really well last season. He was always Mr. Consistent, and while we struggled at times last season, when there were some players who looked like they didn't really want to be there last season, he certainly was not that man. And then when Mark Hughes came in, to be fair, he tried his hardest to implement Mark Hughes' style of play with playing out from the back, but that's just not Jan Songo'o's game. This season really struggled for minutes in the first half of the campaign, came on every now and again for the last 10 minutes to see a game out if we were winning, but in January, with us bringing in Kieran Kelly and Sam Stubbs as well, it just made sense for him to move on, and he went out on loan to Walsall, struggled for minutes there, and while I absolutely love Songo'o, and he's a bit of a meme on the channel, I don't see a world in where he's with the football club next season. Not good enough to play Mark Hughes' style of play in centre defence. We've already got 4 centre-backs in Stubbs, Platt, Odesina and Kelly. Potentially Critchlow coming back. We're not going to need 6 centre-backs midfield. He's nowhere near good enough to play as a midfielder in this squad. And I think at his age, he needs to be going out and playing regular first-team football. I do think he can get another EFL club, somewhere like a Crawley, something like that, maybe potentially next season, somewhere with a team who are really struggling this season, or even somewhere like a Forest Green or an MK Dons, a team that have come down that need a bit of stability, and someone who's always going to give 110%, somewhere like that potentially for him. Or maybe he even goes abroad again. He has played a couple of his... a bit of his career abroad as well, so potentially who knows what the future holds for Jan Songo'o. But I love the man, wish him all the best, but I think he should be released at the end of his current contract. Next up then is a man actually signed by Mark Hughes in the January transfer window just gone, Adam Clayton. Now this one was really hard for me because I see reasons why he should stay, and then I also see reasons why he should be released. And I think with how this season's ended, maybe I'm being a little bit reactionary, but I just think we need a little bit of a refresh in that midfield, and in my opinion, I think Adam Clayton should be released at the end of his current contract. Now, if he gets another one-year deal, I won't be against that completely, but I think he's got the quality on the ball, but I just think his fitness and his legs are gone a little bit. He is an aging man. I think he's about 34, 35 now, and while I still think he's got quality on the ball, I think we need to see Smallwood as that holding midfielder and have maybe Ryan East to one side and then another number 8 or a number 10 in that midfield. I don't think you can have Clayton and Smallwood in the same team, and neither one of them are really going to be wanting to sit on the bench next season. Smallwood obviously being club captain with still another year and the option of a further year at the football club. Clayton out of a contract this summer. I think it makes sense really to move him on. I think he still could get another EFL club in my opinion, but in my opinion, I think Adam Clayton should be released at the end of his current contract with Bradford City. Next up then is another man who was signed by Derek Adams for his third, I believe, stint with the football club, Alex Gilliead. Now, he causes so much debate on social media. I think out of all the players who are out of a deal this summer, Alex Gilliead is last season's Callum Cook. He splits the fan base so much, and I think personally it's time to move on from Alex Gilliead. We've gone back a couple of times and he's just not developed to be enough. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a leader in the changing room. He always gives you 110%, but I think for a central midfielder who's played as a number 8 for the large majority of the season, I think 3 goal contributions is just nowhere near good enough, and I think we need a little bit more from our midfielders. We need our number 8s to be scoring, well, not scoring, but 10 goal contributions a season, really. If you really want to get into that top 3, you can't be having central midfielders who are only contributing 3 goals, and I know he obviously offers a lot more than that, his effort and his commitment to winning the ball back. I'm not going to fault him for that, but I think we could be spending that money a little bit better somewhere else. I don't expect him to be on cheap wages, and I think obviously he's more than good enough to play League 2 football, but I don't think that is with Bradford City next season. I anticipate he probably will get a new contract. Mike Hughes seems to like him quite a lot, but in my opinion, I think if we're being ruthless and we really want to be challenging for the top 3 next season, I don't think you can have Alex Gilliead as a starting central midfielder, and I don't think he'll be happy to sit on the bench. In my opinion, Ryan East is better, and East has sat on the bench or not even made the squad for the majority of the campaign, and I do think that is because that East isn't seen as much of a leader as Gilliead, and I do understand that, but in my opinion, I think it is time to move on, and I wish him all the best. I've been a big critic of him for the first half of the season, but the second half of the season, I've given him a lot of praise, but overall for me, I think Alex Gilliead should be released at the end of his current contract with the football club. Next up then is Bradford City Academy graduate Cian Scales. He was originally given a new 2-year contract with the football club by Derek Adams. Obviously, it does expire this season. He's had numerous loan spells to Farsley Celtic and teams like that. In my opinion, from what I saw in pre-season of Cian Scales, I think he is good enough to be retained, and in my opinion, I would give him a new contract. If you maybe the first half of next season loan him out to a National League club, and then the second half you see if he is good enough to play for the club, even if it's only a 1-year deal and you do something like that. Maybe he's not, but I think when you've had someone come through the academy, I think there is a player there in Cian Scales. I think he could potentially be a future player to play for Bradford City, especially because we're in League 2. If we're in League 1, I would have released Cian Scales, but I think there is that chance now for Cian Scales to really grasp his opportunity, make his marks in pre-season this year. I thought he looked pretty good, to be fair, and I was surprised to see him loaned out to the National League North. I was really surprised to see that. He's done well at a struggling Farsley Celtic side. I obviously wouldn't be heartbroken if Cian Scales was to be released by the football club, but I think there is a player in there. He's obviously still very young. I think he's, 20, 21. Still lots of time to develop and become a future Bradford City player. In my opinion, I think he should be offered a new contract. Maybe only a year or 2 years, something like that. But in my opinion, I think it would be potentially for the best of the football club if he is offered a new deal. Next up then is another Bradford City Academy graduate, Charlie Wood. He played a handful of appearances in pre-season. I think he played against Derby. He might have played against Sunderland. That might have been Bobby Poynton. I'm not really too sure. But he's had loan spells with Gilliead this season. And because I've not seen enough of him, I can't really comment enough to see whether he should be released or not. But I think similar to Heath Richardson, because he's such a young lad and you do normally only get 1-year deals, I think he should be retained for another year, see what he can do maybe at a higher level, somewhere like a National League North, but I don't think he's good enough to really be playing in the National League as of right now. But in my opinion, I do think Charlie Wood should be offered a new contract with the football club at the end of this season. Penultimate player on this list then is another man signed by Derek Adams, Abo Issa. He came in with so much hype and potential from Scunthorpe United, and it's just simply not worked out as it. He's had numerous long-term hamstring injuries. I think Derek Adams has killed the man, really. I think he's killed his body with his training regimes and all that sort of stuff. Abo Issa's body has simply not been able to hack it. When he has played, he's been really hit and miss, to be honest with you. He had that spell around December, January time where he scored against Salford, he scored against Rochdale as well, then got another long-term hamstring injury, and then since then he's come back. I think he only played 1 game against Crewe, dropped an absolute stinker, and it's just not worked out. I think he will go on, get another League 2 club, and he probably will do really well there. He'll probably be one of them players where we've released him because they weren't good enough for our club, and he'll go somewhere else and do really well. He did really well at Scunthorpe United, but it just hasn't worked out his time at Bradford City. It's been so stop-start. He probably himself feels he needs a fresh start, and I wish him all the best, but he has really, I wouldn't say been stealing a wage over the last couple of years, because I think that's really harsh, because it's probably been just as frustrating as him being injured as it is to the fans, but he's just no use in being injured all the times, and that is, it's harsh to say, but it's the hard truth, really, isn't it, at the end of the day? And I think he should be released at the end of his current contract with the football club. And the final man on this list is obviously Andy Cook. I mean, if this man is not a Bradford City player for the next year, 2 years, even 3 years, then I'll be really concerned with what's going on behind the scenes at the football club. Whoever's decision it is, if he's not got a new contract next season. Now, don't get me wrong, if he wants 10 grand a week and a 5-year deal, obviously that's when you look to move him on. But if Andy Cook is not a Bradford City player next season, I'll be absolutely outstanding, because he's absolutely adored by the fan base. He scored 31 goals in all competitions, popped up with 8 assists as well. He's a team player and he's been absolutely unreal. Next season, I don't anticipate he'll come anywhere near 40 goal contributions, but if he gets 20 goals and 5 assists next season, I still think that would be a positive season. We need more output from all our other players. I think he's absolutely crucial. We have to keep him. Even if we're in League One, I would have kept him, to be honest with you. I think you cannot release someone who scored that many goals, and I think it will really come back to bite us if Andy Cookie's not a Bradford City player next season. Now, his head might be turned, say Wrexham come in and offer him a 3-year deal on £5 a week, then maybe you can understand it a little bit more, but I think he obviously deserves a pay rise with the amount of goals that he scored this season, and I think a 2-year contract with the option of a further year would be realistic, in my opinion, and I think obviously he's more than good if he's an outstanding season, and like what I say, if he's not a Bradford City player next season, I'll be 1, heartbroken, and 2, absolutely gobsmacked. I'm going to leave it there though for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 100 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road 7,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Drop a comment in as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know which players you would retain and which players would you release at the end of their current contracts with the football club. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all very soon for another one. Peace.